Dr. Jonathan Wells, an intense historian driven by obsession, stood in the dimly lit museum hall, staring at the crystal skull encased in glass. "Every corner of history whispers secrets," he murmured. He reached out, but hesitation gripped him. Shadows flickered as the candlelight danced. A soft, metallic hum filled the air, drawing his attention to a hidden inscription. Beside him, Claire Bennett, a cautious archaeologist, whispered, "Jonathan, are we tampering with things we shouldn't?" His eyes narrowed. "Every artifact holds truth, Claire. Sometimes it just waits for the brave to uncover it." Outside, storm clouds gathered, lightning illuminating the stone floor. They didn't notice a figure lurking in the corner. Alexander Cross, the keeper of secrets, observing silently. The tension thickened. The air felt heavy with anticipation and hidden danger. Jonathan and Claire exit the museum into the pouring rain. "The inscriptions weren't random," Jonathan said, voice urgent. Claire shook her head, dripping wet. "But someone is watching us. I feel it." Thunder rolled overhead, masking distant footsteps. They duck into a narrow alley, shadows stretching long against the slick stone. Jonathan clutched a small notebook. "We need to find the original source of these skulls. Only then can we understand what they are." Claire frowned. "Or we could be walking into a trap." Lightning split the sky, revealing a figure in a trench coat watching from a distance. The hunt for answers had begun, but danger was already closing in. At Jonathan's cluttered apartment, maps and ancient texts scattered across the table. He pored over sketches of crystal skulls. Claire, pacing, whispered, "You're obsessed. This isn't just history anymore." Jonathan didn't look up. "Obsession is the key, Claire. Every skull is a puzzle piece." He circled locations on the map, each marked in red. The storm outside rattled windows, wind howling. Claire touched a skull replica on the shelf, unease in her eyes. "If Alexander Cross is involved, we're not the only ones hunting these." Jonathan's gaze hardened. "Then we must be faster, smarter." The night stretched long, the mystery deepening with every heartbeat. Jonathan and Claire meet Dr. Evelyn Harper, a renowned archaeologist. Evelyn examined a crystal skull on her desk. "I've studied these for decades," she said softly. "They're not ordinary artifacts." Jonathan leaned in, voice low. "Then what are they?" Evelyn's gaze flickered to a locked cabinet. "Some secrets aren't meant to be unearthed." Claire's hand brushed a nearby skull. It shimmered oddly. Thunder rolled outside. Jonathan whispered, "We can't ignore them, not now." Evelyn's eyes narrowed, sensing determination in the younger pair. "Be careful," she warned. "Knowledge comes with a price." That evening, Jonathan reviewed photographs of the crystal skulls, while Claire typed notes on her laptop. "Duh! Look here!" Jonathan pointed at a tiny marking on the base of one skull. Claire leaned closer. "Is that a symbol? A code?" He nodded. "Yes. And it might be the first clue to the origin." Outside, rain pounded the roof. Shadows from swaying trees flickered across the room. The storm's roar masked subtle creaks in the apartment. Jonathan's jaw tightened. "We're not alone in this, Claire. Someone wants these secrets hidden." Claire swallowed hard. "Then we need to act before they do." The hunt for truth had officially begun. The next morning, Jonathan and Claire arrived at a hidden library in the city outskirts. Dust floated in the morning sunlight, filtering through stained glass. Jonathan whispered, "This place hasn't been touched in decades. Every text here could hold answers." Claire flipped through an ancient manuscript, eyes wide. "Some of these writings mention crystal skulls and a mysterious society," she said. Jonathan leaned closer, tracing a map illustration. "If this society still exists, they've hidden the skulls carefully." Suddenly, footsteps echoed behind towering shelves. Both froze. A hooded figure peeked around the corner, eyes narrowing. Claire muttered, "We're not alone." Jonathan clenched his jaw. "Then it's time to move carefully." Tension tightened their muscles as shadows lengthened across the floor. Jonathan traced the paths on an old parchment, connecting symbols with red ink. Claire leaned over. These symbols look like a language, but no one alive reads it. He tapped the map. If we decode this, we can predict where the skulls were moved centuries ago. Outside, dark clouds rolled, wind rattling the windows. Claire frowned. Someone's following these paths even now. The society won't want us to succeed. Jonathan nodded, determination in his eyes. Then we need to be smarter than they expect. The library felt colder, the echo of distant footsteps like whispers of warning. They realized every move could be a trap, every discovery a danger. That afternoon, Jonathan and Claire explored an abandoned cathedral, rumored to house one of the skulls. The air was thick with incense and decay. Jonathan whispered, "Legends say the skull reveals itself to the worthy." Claire held her flashlight steady, or it traps the unwary. Stained glass fractured light across cracked stone floors. Echoing footsteps made them startle. Jonathan discovered a hidden alcove behind a statue. Inside, a pedestal with an empty indentation caught his eye. It was here, but someone moved it. Claire scanned the shadows nervously. Outside, thunder warned of an approaching storm. Their quest was becoming a dangerous race against unknown forces. Night fell, and Jonathan and Claire camped near a secluded riverbank, maps and manuscripts scattered around the fire. Jonathan studied sketches, murmuring, "The markings suggest a second location, deep in the mountains." Claire rubbed her eyes. "If Cross and his followers are already there, we may be walking into an ambush." Jonathan's expression hardened. "We have to take the risk. Otherwise, the skulls remain lost forever." The fire flickered, shadows dancing over anxious faces. Somewhere in the darkness, a branch snapped. Claire froze, whispering, "Did you hear that?" Jonathan nodded, gripping a walking stick. The journey ahead promised danger, but turning back was no longer an option. The next morning, Jonathan and Claire hiked through dense mountain fog. Visibility was low, the forest silent except for distant bird calls. Jonathan paused, tracing the path marked on his map. "We're close. The air feels different." Claire shivered. "It's too quiet. Something is waiting." The fog thickened as they approached a jagged cliff. Jonathan noticed strange carvings on rocks, identical to the symbols from the library. "This must be the entrance," he whispered. Claire nodded, uneasy, and probably heavily guarded. As the wind howled and mist swirled, they steeled themselves. Ahead lay mystery, danger, and perhaps the answers they sought. Jonathan and Claire reached a hidden cave carved into the mountain cliff. The fog swirled around the entrance, forming eerie patterns. Jonathan whispered, "This has to be it, the last resting place of the crystal skull." Claire shivered, flashlight trembling in her hands. "It feels alive, as if it's waiting for something." As they stepped inside, the air grew colder, echoing every footstep. Ancient murals covered the walls, depicting the skull's journey through time. "These markings, they tell the whole story," Jonathan murmured. Suddenly, a shadow flickered across the far wall. Claire's voice was barely audible. "We're not alone." Jonathan squared his shoulders. "Then we face them together." They advanced cautiously, aware that discovery might trigger a trap. Each step into darkness amplified the tension, the cave whispering secrets long buried. Deep inside the cave, a massive stone chamber opened before them. The pedestal for the crystal skull stood in the center, bathed in faint luminescent light. Jonathan whispered, "It's beautiful and untouched." Claire circled the pedestal, eyes scanning for traps too perfect. "Something feels wrong." Suddenly, Cross and two masked followers emerged from shadows, weapons raised. Jonathan froze. "You followed us." Cross sneered, "The skull belongs to our society, not intruders like you." Claire stepped forward, voice firm, "We won't let you misuse it." Jonathan's hand tightened around a walking stick, ready to defend. Shadows danced along the walls as tension escalated, and the fate of the skull hung in balance. Jonathan lunged toward the pedestal, drawing attention. Claire moved swiftly to flank Cross. The followers reacted instantly, creating a tense standoff. Sparks flew as sticks struck stone and shadows shifted with every motion. Jonathan's voice echoed, "We don't want to hurt you, but we won't back down." Cross laughed, then faced the consequences. A sudden rumble shook the chamber, loose stones falling. Claire ducked, gripping Jonathan's arm. "The cave itself is fighting us." Dust filled the air as tension peaked. Jonathan realized the skull's power might trigger traps designed centuries ago. Every decision now carried weight. One wrong move could be fatal. As the battle intensified, Jonathan and Claire coordinated silently, moving in harmony. Claire grabbed a loose torch, swinging it to distract a follower. Jonathan rolled toward the pedestal, lifting the crystal skull carefully. Cross shouted in fury, "You dare touch it!" The skull glowed, illuminating the entire chamber in pale blue light. Shadows twisted unnaturally, as if alive. Claire shielded her eyes, whispering, "It's reacting to you, Jonathan." Jonathan held it steady, voice calm but urgent. "We must leave now before it consumes the cave." The rumble grew louder, dust and rocks falling like rain. Their escape became a race against the skull's ancient power and Cross's wrath. Jonathan and Claire sprinted toward the cave exit, as rocks tumbled behind them. The crystal skull pulsed, lighting their path like a heartbeat. Cross' enraged shout echoed, but they didn't look back. Emerging into the misty mountains, Jonathan gasped, "We did it! We have it!" Claire lowered her hood, smiling with relief. But the world must never misuse it. The fog slowly cleared as dawn broke, casting golden light over their figures. For now, the skull was safe, and so was their knowledge. Yet both knew this adventure would only be the beginning. Ancient secrets had awakened, and the world outside awaited the stories that only they could tell. Jonathan and Claire returned to their research base, the crystal skull securely encased in protective glass. The room hummed with monitors and equipment, reflecting their cautious optimism. Jonathan adjusted his glasses. "We survived, but what we've uncovered changes everything." Claire studied the skull intently, its energy. "It feels conscious, like it's observing us." The team gathered, whispering theories. Jonathan continued, "We must catalog its power carefully, or risk disaster." Claire nodded. "Every detail matters. One misstep could awaken forces beyond our understanding." Outside, storm clouds gathered, as if echoing their unease. Tension and awe coexisted, a fragile balance between triumph and impending discovery. Late at night, Claire stayed behind, tracing ancient symbols in the lab. Her fingers moved over projections of the cave murals. "These markings aren't just history. They're a map," she murmured. Jonathan leaned over her shoulder, voice low. "A map to what?" Claire paused. "Something bigger, something hidden beyond the mountains." A soft hum emanated from the skull, vibrating through the room. Jonathan felt it too, whispering, "It's trying to guide us." Claire's eyes widened. "Or warn us. Either way, we need to understand it before others do." The skull glowed faintly, casting shifting blue shadows across their determined faces, hinting at secrets yet uncovered. Suddenly, alarms blared. Monitors flickered. Jonathan raced to the control panel. "Someone's trying to access our system." Claire grabbed a tablet, scanning for intrusions. "Cross followers, they haven't given up," she said, her voice tense. Jonathan's hands flew across the keyboard, locking systems. "We need to move the skull, now," he commanded. Claire nodded, her eyes darting to a secured transport crate. They worked in silence, adrenaline driving every motion. Outside, lightning illuminated the mountains, highlighting the urgency. Every second counted, and failure was not an option. The skull's power seemed to pulse faster, sensing the danger. Jonathan and Claire carefully lifted the skull into its reinforced transport crate. Each movement was deliberate, mindful of the skull's immense energy. "It's heavier than it looks," Jonathan muttered, straining slightly. Claire placed protective padding around it, murmuring, "It's not just weight, it's power. It responds to our intent." They exchanged a glance, unspoken understanding passing between them. Outside, the storm raged, wind howling like a warning. Jonathan whispered. We need to relocate it to a safe location before dawn. Claire nodded, determined. No one else can harness it. Not yet. Every action reflected urgency, respect and awe toward the ancient artifact. Before dawn, Jonathan and Claire transported the skull to a hidden mountain sanctuary, surrounded by towering cliffs and dense pine forests. The first rays of sunlight pierced the mist. It's safe here, for now, Jonathan breathed, setting down the crate. Claire scanned the horizon, but others will come. We must be ready. The wind carried whispers of ancient secrets, rustling the trees as if acknowledging their presence. They secured the area, leaving no trace of their arrival. Jonathan looked at Claire. This is only the beginning. Our journey isn't over. Claire smiled faintly, resolute, and neither is the skull's story. The mountains stood silent, guarding their secret, for now. The mountain sanctuary was eerily quiet as the first light of dawn hit the peaks. Jonathan inspected the crystal skull, noting faint pulsations of energy. Claire stood nearby, tense but focused. It's reacting to something approaching. Suddenly, a shadow moved along the cliff edge. Jonathan whispered, "Cross followers, they found us." Claire grabbed a tactical backpack, preparing defenses. The skull glowed brighter, almost anticipating the threat. Wind howled through the pines, carrying an ominous charge. Every second stretched taut, as if the mountains themselves held their breath, watching the coming confrontation. Cross followers emerged from the trees, armed and determined. Jonathan and Claire positioned themselves behind natural barriers, ready to defend the skull. "We can't let them take it," Jonathan muttered. Claire nodded, scanning their numbers. "We need a plan, quick, decisive." The skull pulsed stronger with each heartbeat, reacting to their fear and determination. Lightning flashed, illuminating the jagged terrain. As the enemy advanced, the energy from the skull surged, bathing the sanctuary in a supernatural glow. Time slowed. Every step, every breath, every decision could mean victory or destruction. Claire noticed symbols on nearby rocks, similar to those in the lab. Jonathan, the skull, it's a key. It responds to these markings. Jonathan studied the etchings, realization dawning. We can use them to channel its energy against them. They began carefully positioning the skull near the symbols. Energy surged, forming ethereal blue waves. Cross-followers hesitated, feeling the force, eyes wide with fear. Jonathan's voice rose above the chaos. "Focus. Channel it. Don't fight it." Claire extended her hands over the skull, guiding the energy. A powerful, resonant hum filled the air, shaking rocks and rattling trees. The skull released a blinding pulse, sending a shockwave through the mountain pass. Cross-followers were thrown off balance, retreating as the energy formed protective barriers around Jonathan and Claire. Trees bent with the force, rocks vibrated, and the air shimmered. Jonathan shouted, "Now we move. Secure the sanctuary." Claire nodded, guiding the energy to create a safe passage. The pulse subsided, leaving the mountain silent once more. The crystal skull hummed softly, as if satisfied. Exhausted but triumphant, they exchanged a glance, both relief and understanding passing silently between them. They had survived, but the skull's secrets remained alive, promising future challenges. As dawn broke fully, Jonathan and Claire stood at the sanctuary's edge, overlooking the valley below. The sky was calm, the storm passed, leaving a sense of hard-earned peace. "We did it," Jonathan said quietly, eyes on the horizon. Claire smiled faintly, "For now. But the skull has more to teach us." They carefully secured the artifact, aware of the responsibility it carried. The mountains stood silent, guarding their secret. Jonathan turned to Claire. "This journey isn't over, it's only beginning." Together, they descended toward the valley, prepared for whatever mysteries awaited them next. The crystal skull pulsed gently, a beacon of both danger and discovery. Weeks had passed since the mountain confrontation. Jonathan and Claire returned to their research base. The crystal skull now encased in protective glass. The lab was quiet, almost reverent. Jonathan examined the skull's faint pulse. It's stable, for now. Claire reviewed notes on their latest expedition, but there's more. I keep finding patterns we haven't deciphered yet. Outside, the city hummed with life, oblivious to the forces at play. Jonathan rubbed his temples, thinking, every answer we found only leads to more questions. Claire nodded, her eyes reflecting determination. Then we keep searching. Together. A notification blinked on Claire's tablet. A new archaeological site had been discovered in the Amazon, with markings eerily similar to the ones they'd seen on the mountain. Jonathan leaned over, eyes widening. That's impossible. The coordinates match none of the known maps. Claire smiled faintly. Then it's exactly where we need to go. The skull's pulse quickened slightly, as if sensing the connection. Jonathan clenched his fist, excitement and caution mixing. Another adventure. Another challenge. Claire's gaze hardened, and we'll face it like we always do, carefully and together. Late at night, Jonathan reviewed historical journals related to the crystal skull. Each page revealed cryptic messages, hinting at a global network of artifacts. Claire joined him, sipping tea. Every artifact seems linked, not just the skull. Jonathan nodded, and someone, or something, has been guarding these secrets for centuries. They exchanged a silent understanding. The lab lights flickered briefly, shadows stretching across walls. Jonathan whispered, almost to himself, "We're just scratching the surface." Claire replied softly, "Then let's dig deeper." The next morning, a courier arrived with a sealed envelope containing a small, ancient key and a note. "The journey is far from over. Follow the signs." Jonathan examined the key, tracing its intricate carvings. This could be part of the network. Claire studied the note. Whoever sent this knows us, or the skull. A storm brewed outside, distant thunder echoing the uncertainty ahead. Jonathan exhaled. "Looks like we're not done yet." Claire's eyes gleamed with determination, "And we never will be." Jonathan and Claire stood at the lab's rooftop, city sprawled beneath them. The crystal skull pulsed softly, as if aware of their thoughts. Jonathan said, "We've survived storms, enemies, and secrets no one else could touch." Claire looked at him, "And yet, there's more. Always more." The skyline shimmered as dawn broke, new light reflecting off the city and mountains beyond. Jonathan nodded. "Then we follow the signs. Together." The skull glowed one final time, a beacon calling them toward the next adventure. The world was vast, full of mystery, and they were ready. Jonathan and Claire arrived in the dense Amazon jungle, the air thick with humidity and the distant roar of wildlife. Claire scanned the terrain. "The markings are here, just like the mountain." Jonathan adjusted his backpack. "We're not alone. Something is watching." The crystal skull, secure in a padded case, pulsed faintly. Jonathan rubbed his chin, uneasy. "Every artifact we touch seems to attract attention." Claire nodded, machete in hand. "Then we need to move carefully, and fast." Mist curled around the trees, hiding paths and secrets alike. As they trekked deeper, the ground beneath them became uneven, roots tangled like veins of the earth. Claire paused, tracing symbols carved into stone walls hidden by vines. These matched the ones in the journals. Jonathan knelt, brushing dirt off additional carvings. "This isn't just history. It's a warning." A sudden rustle in the underbrush made both spin around. A shadowy figure vanished behind the trees. Claire whispered, "We're not the only ones searching." Jonathan clenched his fists. "Then we have to uncover the truth before they do." Night fell with an almost unnatural silence. Jonathan and Claire set up a small camp, lantern casting flickering light. The crystal skull rested on a nearby rock, pulsing faintly like a heartbeat. Claire said, "These carvings, they hint at a network spanning continents." Jonathan stared into the darkness, voice low, "And someone has been guarding them for centuries. We might be walking into a trap." Claire tightened her grip on a small dagger. "Then we stay alert. We can't afford mistakes." The jungle seemed to watch, every distant animal sound echoing like a warning. Suddenly, a low hum resonated from the crystal skull. Jonathan froze. It's reacting to something nearby. Claire scanned the tree line, eyes narrowing. We're close to the source. I can feel it. From the shadows, a group of mysterious figures emerged, cloaked and silent. Jonathan whispered, "We're outnumbered." Claire's hand hovered over the skull case. "Then we use what we have, carefully." The forest seemed alive, wind stirring leaves like warning whispers. Jonathan took a deep breath. "Whatever happens next, we stick together." A sudden storm broke over the jungle, rain drenching the foliage. Jonathan and Claire moved through slippery terrain, the cloaked figures in pursuit. Lightning illuminated the carvings on massive stones ahead. "Wow!" Claire shouted over thunder. "Those markings, they're a map." Jonathan's eyes widened. "Then we have to reach the center before they do." They sprinted, the skull pulsing with increasing intensity. The jungle roared around them, branches snapping, mud flying, every step a test of endurance. As they reached the ancient temple at the heart of the carvings, Jonathan gasped, This changes everything."